Everybody, so today in this video I'm finally going to do the in-depth episode on the tube jig. So what is a tube jig? Basically it looks like a squid, honestly. When I first bought them, I honestly thought they were just silly, some crazy looking bait that ain't going to catch anything, until I tried them and I actually caught a lot of fish on them. I've caught them on both Texas rigs and jig rigs, and this is what I'm going to show you guys today is the jig rig. Basically it is an internal jig head that is inside of the tube because the tube itself is hollow. This here is a smoke purple Strike King tube with an 1/8 ounce jig head, and this one here is a 1/8 ounce jig head with a tiny little finesse tube. And those are my favorite. Those are my two favorite tubes. I also like using a black and red color or a green pumpkin color. So go ahead and get into it. And turn my camera around here. Oh, wrong way. There we go. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into this video. We're going to talk about the little bit bigger one first, mainly because it was just the one sitting there. So I went fishing today, as you guys probably already seen the video that I shot. I caught one fish on a frog. My dad caught 3. I ended up breaking off one of the cheap frogs on my very first cast. I know that sounds bad, but yeah. I broke off on my very first cast. When we got there, the fish came up and nailed it about 4 feet off the bank. I set the hook and reeled down twice and it just popped right off. So we went to Walmart and I ended up buying me another one, and I ended up buying my dad 3 different colors. So, oh my god, oh my god, oh, did you guys see that? What the heck? I literally just was sitting here, Scott. I had like maybe 4 feet of line out, and he smoked it. He thumped it, and when I felt him thump it, I reeled down to make sure it was a fish. There you go. Smoke tube does actually catch fish. Look at there. There's your proof. There's actually now about 10 bass in here. So that's not the same big one that I've always been catching. There's a bunch of them in there about that size. And now there's one that's about, how big is it? I think it was 3 pounds 4 ounces. I meant to make a video, or I did make a video actually. I made a video of me releasing that bass into the pond, but the video decided to mess up. The audio was horrible and it was going to be all sideways and messed up, so I just decided not to end up posting it. Yeah, see that, guys? Now I honestly think the reason why I didn't get that fish in was I really didn't hook set that hard. I wasn't really expecting it either. So there you go. I mean, obviously it catches fish. So the tube jig is something that I personally really like to throw. It's a lot of fun to throw. And you can throw them many different ways. You know, if you throw them on a jig head like I'm fishing here, you know, you can cast it out. This jig head rig obviously will work a little bit better if there's not a lot of grass or wood structure. It works a little bit better around rocks. Because that's where a lot of people like to throw it for smallmouth. But I personally like to throw it where there's just a tad bit of grass. Something moved over there. Where there's just a tad bit of grass on the bottom, and I like to pop it up like this. Reel down and twitch your rod tip straight up. Let her sink back down. This works really well with green pumpkin tubes. I've caught a bunch in different ponds using it just like this. Another way that you can do it, if you choose to, just about backlashed, but this reel ended up fixing it. This is a really good reel. I don't know what year it is. It's an old Abu Garcia Black Max, but it is an awesome reel. I've only backlashed it maybe 4 times ever since I've had it. It's an awesome reel. But anyway, if you have a lot of structure around, I wouldn't consider jigging it like that, because basically you're kind of hook setting straight up, and if you get on a limb and you don't know it and you jig up, your hook's just going to bury straight into that limb, and you'll honestly be pretty lucky to get it back. But I went to a pond. You guys have seen it in a couple different videos, probably 3 or 4. It was actually where I caught my bass that I was in my very first video. I've taken green pumpkin jig head rig tubes just like this one here, just in green pumpkin, and I've caught a bunch of fish there. Basically what I would do is I would cast straight to the middle, let it sink all the way down, and then I'd reel it up to where the line is tight, and I would just fish it like a shaky head. Slowly, just moving it very slowly along the bottom. That's literally all I would be doing. That's kind of what I was doing there when I hooked that fish. Was I was just slowly twitching it along the bottom. And one place that I really like to throw tubes are on flats. You guys know from 120 different videos I've made, or, well, no, I've made like 200, and I got fish. Oh, I think I had a fish there. Ooh, a little frog scared me. That was weird. I think something tried to eat him. But anyway, you guys know from all the videos I've made, you guys know that I like fishing flats. If I'm ever on a shallow lake or something where there's a flat that's about 3 to 4 feet, I love fishing on those flats. And that's where I was fishing. I would cast it out basically on the edge of the flat, because I was bank fishing. I would cast it on the edge of the flat and then bring it straight up onto the flat, and that's where I would normally get bit, right there on that edge, basically on the end of my cast, because I was casting a long ways to get to the edge. But another good way to do it is just to reel it in. If you reel it slowly, now when you first start reeling the jig head tube, you'll see it kind of twisting. Basically, you want to slow down. When you see it twisting like that, you want to slow down to where you can tell that it's swimming straight. It's not twisting, not spinning or nothing like that. When it's doing that, it works really well. And it works a little bit better with a Texas rig over a jig head, because the jig head will cause it to spin if you reel a little bit too fast. But if you just reel it slow enough to where it still is going straight, you can definitely catch some fish. I've had fish, I've watched fish when I was reeling it up along that flat. I would watch fish just follow it all the way to where it was like that right there, and then they would just smoke it. And I would just be reeling like this right here, just real slow. Let me fix this camera a tad bit. Just reeling it real slow along. And then all of a sudden they just smoke it with like 5 inches of the line out. And I got to where I would realize that they were going to do that. So I would slow down my retrieve as I got closer to the bank, to give them a little bit more time to hit the bait. But something else you can do, now this is kind of more of a tip for either people who fish for lake trout or people who fish for really aggressive smallmouth. I've seen people catch some big smallmouth using this technique. Basically what you do is you cast it out, let it fall all the way to the bottom, and then jerk it up real hard. Basically like you're wanting to bring it up to the surface. Just like that. Now I'm sure you could probably catch largemouth doing this. I personally haven't, but I've seen people catch some big smallmouth, and that's like one of the main techniques to catch lake trout. You know, with the lures, obviously. But I've seen people catch some big lake trout, and I've also seen people catch some pretty good size smallmouth doing it. Another way that I really do like to fish these, especially when you have it Texas rigged, or if your fish are very aggressive, is just to twitch it like you would a walking bait. Now you guys, if you didn't watch my walking bait in-depth video, make sure you guys go check that video out. But basically what you want to do is you want to keep your reel reeling at all times. Not super fast. Basically, you want to just slowly reel, but you want to keep contact with that bait at all times. Keep contact with it. That way if the fish hits it, no matter when the fish will hit it, because the fish will hit it exactly when you don't expect them to hit it. Sometimes they'll hit it when you want them to, but most of the time they won't, just because that's the way fish are. So you want to keep contact with that tube at all times, and you want to just sit there and twitch it. Just like that. I have caught fish doing that, and basically what it does... Oh, right there kicked on. Hang on a minute. Alrighty, we're back. Sorry about that. It was only a few very minor seconds for you guys, but it's been about 20 minutes since I last talked to you. So, as I was saying, I don't remember what I was saying because it's been a while since I've talked to you guys. But, you know, twitching the rod tip like that gives it a little bit of a walking back and forth action. Kind of gives it like a dying shad or a bluegill or whatever you're trying to imitate. Goulby. These things were mainly made for smallmouth fishing. I've caught a lot of largemouth and also quite a few rock bass on these as well. But yeah, so I think since I've already talked for a little over 10 minutes with these, we'll go ahead and go with the little finesse tube. These things here are very small, for bass tubes anyway, but they are so much fun to fish. Little brown and gray tube. Looks awesome in the water. Looks just like a little crawfish. Now obviously with a tube this small, it'd work a lot better using a spinning rod. But you can use that other tube with a spinning rod as well. I have a fish. Oh, he came off. I believe that was a bluegill. Just because he wasn't really hitting it very hard. And that is usually one of the best spots to catch bluegill in the whole pond. Right over there, right here. The two best spots to catch bluegill on this pond. And sometimes over in that corner. I would not at all be surprised if a bluegill tried to eat this. Wouldn't be surprised at all. I honestly would be more surprised if we didn't catch a bluegill with this tube. I've caught a lot of bluegill on bigger baits than this, so. But anyway, fish it basically the same way, just a little bit slower. Sorry about that. I fish these littler tubes a little bit slower. A couple different reasons, just because it's lighter. Gives the fish a little bit more time to find it, because as I said, it is a small tube, and you know, the fish sitting there on the bottom be a little bit harder to find this, especially if there is a lot of bigger crawfish. You know, I mean, if you're in a tournament situation and you want to catch a limit quick, these little tubes like this would be perfect, especially if you're on a smallmouth and largemouth lake. You know, if you're on a lake like Chickamauga, or let's say Lake, what's that lake called? Not Lake Michigan, Lake Erie Lake, or whatever it's called. Michigan would probably be one as well. If you're on a tournament up there and you're in a lake where the smallmouth like to hang out with the largemouth, you know, these little tubes would be perfect. I think these tubes would also be really good for spotted bass as well. Maybe out on a Bulliard's Bar, out in California, where there's a lot of lakes where there's all three. That would be an awesome place to fish, where you can catch all three, largemouth, smallmouth, and spots in the same area. I've seen it. I've seen it both on YouTube and on TV where people were literally catching largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass back-to-back casts, all three. It'd be awesome, but where I'm at in the world, it's nearly impossible to find large or smallmouth. There's a few spots that have spots. Yeah, that makes sense. There's a few places that have spotted bass in it. Like my cousin went to a place over in Indiana that he and his family likes to camp at, and they caught like a bunch of spotted bass up there, you know, 1.5 2-pound spots. He said that the spotted bass fishing is better than the largemouth fishing. I really want to go over to Indiana with him to a few of his lakes that he fishes, because in Indiana you don't have to have a fishing license if you're 16. So I mean, if you go over, or I can go over there and catch some fish, not even have to get a fishing license, that would be alright, because I mean, it's not like we're going to be going over there and catching them all and eating them and everything else. Just catching them for fun. But yeah, anyway, kind of getting sidetracked here. But I think these little tubes will work awesome for spotted bass. I know they work good for smallmouth. And I have no doubt in my mind that they'd catch fish just about anywhere because of how small they are. Small meals just catch everything. They'll catch bluegill, they'll probably catch perch. I mean, it's honestly hard to say what you can catch with a small little crawfish imitating bait like this. I mean, you could, you know, if you find a spot where there's a lot of crappie, you could easily catch crappie on this. Maybe not this color, because crappie usually like a little bit brighter colors like pinks and greens, but you know, if you had like some spike it or something to color this bait, you'd probably be able to catch fish with it. Catch some crappie. Because this thing is just perfect little bait fish, crawfish imitator. It imitates a lot of different things, which is why I like it. As you can take and fish it slowly like a crawfish, or you can jig it up off the bottom like a dying bluegill or shad, minnow, goulby, whatever. Then you can real slowly swim it back. Like I was talking about with the bigger tubes, you can do that as well. Give it a little bit of a bluegill action, if I can find my words and speak English. But yeah, you can definitely catch some good sized fish on tubes. There's no doubt in my mind that this thing would work just about everywhere. I've already had a bluegill bite. I think it was a bluegill. I don't know. I'm not gonna say it was, but I think it was. It's honestly hard to say. So I hope you guys like this video. Basically, I didn't go super in-depth on the littler tube because I kind of just fished it the same way I fished the bigger tube. You know, you can swim it, you can jig it up off the bottom. You can do a lot of different things with it that you can still do with the bigger tube. You can't Texas rig it though, because it's very small. It's very small, and it'd be nearly impossible to Texas rig it unless you have some really small EWG hooks. So, like I said, I hope you all like this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Just got 750 subscribers. Don't know how long that's going to last. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. If I catch a fish, I'll post a short video of it. Thanks for watching. Bye.